Hi guys, welcome to Life with Gaz. Today we're going to be looking at what wildlife I can find in the hidden pockets around Blackpool, and this is going to happen month by month, so if you like wildlife make sure you hit that subscribe button. But for now, let's see what we can find. The first ducks that caught my eye were these tufted ducks, the male with the brilliant white flanks, the black all over, and that brilliant golden striking eye of theirs. Now these two were out feeding, and in the wild these birds feed on a variety of mollusks, aquatic inverts, and also the odd bit of plant matter as well. So it's great to watch these guys working as they're diving down to the bottom to sift through the bottom of this pond. Also diving on the lake was a great crested grebe. Now these birds are slightly more active in their hunting, as these birds would target fish, small inverts and also amphibians as well. And a great crested grebe in the UK was hunted almost to extinction for its head plumage, which people use to decorate hats as well as other pieces of clothing as well. I watched this bird work almost the full length of that lake, which is quite amazing considering that was about 600 yards that bird was working underneath the water until he was satisfied and then could have a bit of a preen. Bees like this little guy are doing a crucial job at this time of year, pollinating flowers. Now this little bee was working amongst the brambles, moving from one flower to the next, collecting the nectar which these little animals will feed on. Depositing her eggs in the pond is this four-spotted chaser. Now this wasn't the Bean Lake out on Stanley Park, this was one of the ornamental ponds in the Rose Garden. Now these fantastic little insects, the dragonflies, are what helicopter flight was designed on. Common throughout almost every patch of water throughout the areas which I've looked are damselflies. Now these guys live very close together. Unlike the dragonflies, which you'll find them holding territories, the damselflies will actually live in quite close proximity. Now this means that when the damselflies are breeding like this, you also get some competition. And this little guy here, he's doing well to hold on to his female because of their other males that are trying to push him off. Feeding on the ground here is one of our most iconic of our songbirds, with the brilliant red chest of the robin. Now these birds will feed down on the ground and then return to perches where they'll scout around the area to see for any insects which may be wandering out into the open. But as these birds are sitting up on those perches and those perches sway, the birds have got a fantastic ability of keeping that head still, just like this guy's doing on the perch now. And next, feeding on the lavender is the most common butterfly which I'm seeing this year so far, which is the humble little gatekeeper. Also at this time of year I'm seeing a few painted lady butterflies as well. Now these little butterflies, just like the gatekeepers, are feeding on the flowers with their proboscis, a feeding like tube which is designed to take the nectar from the stems of the flowers. But as we move later into the summer, the orb spiders start building their webs bigger and bigger, and this can be dangerous for butterflies, especially with this male garden spider here sitting in the center of his web waiting for his next meal. And of course, when you go to any lake, you're generally going to be guaranteed of bumping in to the humble mallard. These are one of Britain's most common ducks, and also with that striking head, one of our most iconic as well. At this time of year, the females are often seen with a whole little gang of little baby ducklings. Unfortunately, these guys need to run a whole gauntlet of predators just to survive up to adulthood. And even occasionally watching out for mum's feet kicking you in the water. Looking away from the water and up into the trees, I found these amazing little birds. That's right, a little pair of nuthatches in search of their next meal, creeping up and down the vertical trunks of the trees. And back down at water level, there's a female swan sat on a clutch of eggs. Now she'd been sat there for most of the month so far. I've not seen any signals from her, but I have from some of the others. But I did manage to catch a very quick glimpse and almost caught it nicely on camera of the eggs sitting underneath her. Elsewhere on the lake, other families of swans are raising their cygnets happily, and these guys are out feeding on their main diet out here, which seems to be the vegetation they pull from the bottom of the lake. Now once they've finished feeding, there's always time to go back and have a quick preen and keep yourself feather perfect. Whereas out on the next lake over, another family of swans which seem to be having a very successful season with their cygnets. Being the time of babies, even the moor hens have got their own chicks they're teaching how to survive, and just behind them is the nest that chick was hatched from. Not only the moor hens and mallards, but the coots are breeding as well. And here's a little pair of coots which I found with the male guarding the nest whilst the female sits it. Unfortunately, from all the coot nests I've seen on Stanley Park Lake, I've never seen a single chick. The adults abandoned the nests. Whether the chicks hatched and got predated or whether the clutches failed, I don't know. Standing still waiting for its next meal to come to it is one of the herons. Now there is actually quite a big roost site and nest area for the herons just above this island, and it's great to see in the winter, but even the statue eventually gets tired and has to yawn. Down on the beach you get a wide variety of gulls, well pretty much anywhere in Blackpool anyway. But down here on the beach, we've got this little blackback taking a little walk down to the sea. Then he has a bath and flies off. Who knows where he's going? Let's hope it's somewhere good. On a flat day like this, where there's not much wave action, you can be lucky enough to spot seals. Now the seals that we get round here, there's not a huge colony of them, but they're quite easy to spot. They just look like a football bobbing along. Now when you see the seals, sometimes if you're lucky enough, you'll even get a chance to see them hunting, and the easiest way to see this is by watching the seals dive in and out. Now this little seal here is coming up for air, dropping back down, and eventually came up with a nice big flatfish which it decided to eat, and they do this by holding the flatfish between their paws, and their front flippers, which have got claws on them, can grip that fish whilst they rip chunks off of it, whereas a round fish like a whiting, the seal would just swallow whole. As the seal was feeding on the surface, he attracted the attention of a few of the local gulls. Now these gulls aren't actually too fussy, will eat almost anything, and are definitely not shy when it comes to taking dinner away from another animal, and they were certainly eyeing up this seal's flatfish. But the seal had other ideas. By dropping that flatfish, it gave him a chance to dive underwater, come up and chase the gulls off. Before diving back down to retrieve the fish that he'd already caught and finish his dinner in peace. The heron gulls found down on the beach are one of the most widespread and well adapted birds we have in this country today, and the heron gulls not only found on the beach in their original habitats, but are also equally happy nesting on top buildings with quite a high success rate, and at this time of year it's not uncommon to see lots of little tiny chicks wandering around on the rooftops. but living and nesting so close together, it's not uncommon to see the odd fight break out. Gulls aren't the only birds from the sea to take advantage of our rooftops. Here's a little oyster catcher. Now I'm sure this guy's got a nest because I see him up there every single day calling first thing in the morning and watching him and his partner go backwards and forwards to the coast. Another successful animal is the grey squirrel. Now this guy was introduced to Britain from the Americas, and these guys unfortunately have outcompeted our lovely little red squirrels. Now these guys will build a nest which is called a dray, and in this case this little guy has decided to take up his residence in a box probably made for a blue tit or something along those lines. Now people love these charismatic little animals and often feed them, and these little guys will feed from food which is left out for birds, and sometimes will even cache it in trees and in the ground. Now I'm not sure this one did cache it in the tree. I think someone put it in there for him because there's quite a lot of good stuff in there. Now when it comes to feeding the squirrels, some people put squirrel proof feeders up, but no squirrel is a squirrel unless they try their best to get food out of it anyway. And as much as this squirrel tried, unfortunately nothing came out for him today. But looking at this squirrel's persistence, I'm pretty sure every now and again he gets a nice treat. Foraging on the ground with a striking yellow beak and black body, we've got the common and lovely little blackbird. Now this is a male blackbird. The females are duller and don't have quite as much yellow on the beak. But when these birds are out, you'll often see a male and a female foraging together, almost as if they're working the same bit of ground, which is their own territory. Whereas flocking birds like these starlings will feed in groups, just like you can see here. And in a stark contrast in colour, we've got this lovely little blue tit. Now these are busy little birds, and at this time of year are often rearing clutches of chicks. Now these are quite successful little birds and will actually have quite a high success rate up to fledgling age. Native to the southern states and Mexico of North America, the red-eared terrapin is another invader we have in the UK. Now although these guys aren't thought to be able to breed in the UK, they have been known to lay eggs naturally out in our habitat. Another invasive species we have here are the ringneck parakeets. Now these clumsy and comical little birds are loved by people who watch them, and here in the park there is at least two pairs. Now you can tell the male and the female apart because the male has got a ring around his neck, whereas the female, she doesn't have anything as well pronounced as he does. And although people feed them, these birds also know how to survive in the wild and will go off and find their own food, with this one picking what looks like unripe fruit from one of the fruit trees on the woodland gardens.
Hi guys, thanks for watching all the way to the end. This is the first of a monthly cycle which we'll be doing, and then also I'm planning on making some other videos which are individual to other species. But if you want to see more like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button just here. And for now, unfortunately, it's bye bye.